Tyrese Haliburton, Olympian with Team USA. We got to break down all aspects of Team USA ahead of the Olympics in 10 days and Haliburton's role on the team, their group, the changing of the old guard to new guard, how Haliburton can help this team work, why he's on the team in the first place. We'll get to it all today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Tuesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI, and today we are talking Team USA, Tyrese Haliburton's spot on it, the Olympics, and all things related to those topics. 10 days from now, opening ceremonies, USA playing some friendlies. They played the Canada game against Andrew Nembhard last week. And importantly for this recording, they played yesterday, but this recording was before that game. So we got something wrong. The USA starting five is actually going to change. We talked about that lineup later and did not suggest the multiple changes that are expected to be made. And two, we recorded before their second game. So if Haliburton did something awesome, we did not end up talking about it. But we do talk about the whole team, the status of Team USA, and all things Olympics. So really looking forward to watching these games and breaking them down. And this preview will help you get ready for Haliburton and USA's run in the Paris Olympics. Brendan Rourke, who used to write for Pacers.com and now works on the digital team for Team USA, perfect guest to join us. He knows all about all these topics. So let's just get right into it with Brendan Rourke. It's an Olympic year, and for the first time since I've been doing this podcast, there's an Olympian Pacer this year, and they're the most uniquely qualified person on the planet to talk about it. Is going to join me right now to break down Tyrese Haliburton and Team USA. It's Brendan Rourke, who's on the digital media team for Team USA and TeamUSA.com, and he used to write for Pacers.com. Is there a better crossover of a resume than that to break this down? Brendan, I'll let you tell me that in a second, but how you doing? Is this the craziest year ever for you with the Olympics? And what do you think of everything going on for you?
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. It ramps up about 2023, especially when all of the sports are qualifying. I may not be the best expert at just basketball because now my job involves 36 Olympic and Paralympic sports to cover. So I have to keep tabs on over 1,000 athletes at any given time. We just got done updating all 500 bios on TeamUSA.com for the Olympic team, and then we'll have an extra 200 something more after Paralympic track and field trials start in 3 days. Shout out if you want to see some of our cool Paralympians. But yeah, everything is ramping up. Team USA basketball got named, and then we had to step in and try to create some content with them in the small window. And we got a little bit of a show against Canada, but this is going to be a very fun basketball tournament, I think.
I agree. It is this is probably going to be the case every Olympics for a while, but this is the best collection of talent I think we've ever seen basketball as the Olympics. Like even the two teams that I would consider like more inferior compared to the other 10 are still like have NBA players or in South Sudan's case, like an ascending new program that is trending way in the right direction. Like it's a really good field, and USA is still the favorite, of course, but I think it's really awesome in that way that, you know, it's like every game is going to be really interesting. And something Haliburton's talked about a lot, and he has the experience obviously with the World Cup last year, is when the teams are as at least good as they are. And again, USA is the favorite, but because it's just the best of one tournament the whole time. Like even in the group play, you only play the teams in your group once. One hot night from two guys in the other team, and you just lose, right? Like it's not a best of three. If it was a best of three every round, USA would be looking good. So that makes it really fun. And I think this is going to be a really, really fun Olympic tournament where, again, I think the favorite is the team everybody thinks is the favorite, but it's not like years past where it's really easy to pick the USA or the field question. It's really tight.
Yeah, it's going to be, there's about 4 or 5 teams that could podium, really. Obviously, the USA is the favorite, but you talk about red hot teams in any given time. The most red hot team right now is ranked pretty low in all the power rankings, but it's Puerto Rico. They've been red hot. And if anybody has watched the Olympics for 20 years, Puerto Rico has upset the U.S. once with the old, NBA great Carlos Arroyo way back in 2004. But they'll use that as motivation. I mean, Puerto Rico's in that group. And you talk about Tyrese Haliburton. There are also two other Pacers in the Olympics. Andrew Nemhard on Canada, and of course, fan favorite on Japan now. I'm sorry, I read his name, but don't say it. Kaisei Tominaga. So Pacers fans have rooting interest outside the U.S. too. If you just love basketball, and Indiana loves basketball, so you can tune into any game, see a bunch of NBA players, a lot of college players. South Sudan has a couple of NCAA D1 players if you want to follow them, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I always am with international basketball. And the thing I love about this stuff, I feel like we're dancing around Pacer stuff too much, but that's okay because I love FIBA, the FIBA game. Like, it's more fun to me for a lot of reasons. No three in the key. You can hit it off the rim, right? Like, that makes post play way more tenable in a lot of ways because you can defend way more effectively down there. And you have to play through the post because there's a lot more physicality allowed in these games. So you can't just, it's harder to spread out. Like, it's harder to see those passes to just get the threes up. And I guarantee USA is going to lead this tournament in 3 attempts because they have the best shot creators, but it's not easy. It's not as easy. Like, if you watch Team USA last year in the World Cup, that part of the reason that they had trouble sometimes is when they'd play these teams. Lithuania got them this way. Germany got them this way, playing through the post. Canada was the only team that's like guard heavy that really beat them in a way that is more NBA traditional, for lack of a better term. But I just love the way the FIBA game is played. The fewer fouls to foul out really changes the dynamics of post play too. So it's awesome. And I think that that's a big change for a lot of USA guys that always talk about it. And it makes these games a lot more fun and less like variances involved in the result. Truly the best team has to earn it.
Absolutely. And to all of your points, post play is going to be so big. And that's why the US is almost always perennially the favorite. I mean, you'll have players like Rudy Gobert, great post player in defense and everything like that. You're going to have Giannis. You're going to have big guys. But the U.S. can switch out, Joel Embiid, and guess who's on the bench that's going to come in? Bam and AD. Like, that's the benefit. The benefit for Team USA is going to be that depth. And you saw it. If you watch the exhibition game against Canada, Canada was hanging in there, but then, Tyrese Haliburton and Anthony Edwards come in off the bench and immediately provide a spark that Canada can't, match right now. They may in the future, and we'll see it, we'll see other teams give them a fight for a while. I mean, Germany is second in most power rankings that you looked up with the Wagner brothers and everybody, and Germany won the last FIBA World Cup or World Championship. I'm not really sure. So they're going to come in hungry as well, but that's where the U.S. stands out is post play. AD's allowed to tip things in. He's just taller, things like that. So it'll be really who can defend the U.S. the longest in the half.
Yeah, I think that their Canada game showed almost all the stuff we're talking about in like one pocket of a game because like they were shooting early and they were missing and they were losing. And Drew Holiday was a big game changer in the game. I thought he was USA's best player, but their second best player, or at least one of their best guys, was Anthony Davis for a lot of the reasons you just laid out. Like when he was able to be a game changer defensively down low, I think he had 5 blocks in that game. He scored 10 points. Like he was finishing like that. Was so huge for them to have that level play in the post. And the reason they needed Anthony Davis so bad is because their starting center couldn't play the way he plays in the NBA and fouled out really fast. And Joel Embiid, he fouled out in 10 minutes with 5 fouls, which is lower. So you saw the bad side of what it can do. Embiid had an awful night, right? I think he had a negative plus minus in like a double-digit win. And Davis was fantastic, right? And even Bam was really good defensively and on the glass. So that's kind of where a lot of the other guys you'd expect to play the way they did on the perimeter, like take the shots they did. But like Steph Curry took 1 3, I think, in the game.
Yeah.
Excuse me, he took 1 2. I got that backwards. So he took 6 3. So he's going to be the guy that gets him up. But it's just different, right? It's a way different kind of game. And that kind of influences who's good. That's why Germany is thought of so highly because they have a lot of post players. Johannes Voigtmann, I watched him so much last year next to Daniel Theis. He's a beast. And that's why I think my second favorite team in this tournament behind the USA is going to be France because they are loaded on the front line, right? In these qualifying or exhibitions they've been doing, Wembanyama and Gobert is insanely good in this style of play. So there's no there's no Pacers on France, but their group's really hard too. So I mean, every group besides the USA group is at least a little tough. So we'll see how it shakes out for them. But I think they're going to look really good in this setting, even though they don't have a lot of guards, because their best players can dominate where they like to dominate.
Yeah, and it will come down to chemistry as well. I mean,
sure.
you're gonna have Australia plays together all the time. You're gonna have Joe Ingles and Patty Mills in both, I believe, their 5th Olympics, and you're gonna have Spain, who has Rudy Fernandez once again. If anybody watches FIBA for the past 6 Olympics, he's the first ever male basketball player to get 6 Olympics. So you're going to have teams who have chemistry, but it will be, once again, star power may overrule that. And that's why the U.S. is favored.
I've enjoyed that storyline last year. People were talking about at the World Cup is like USA sends different teams to everything for various reasons. Whereas every other country, it's almost exclusively like 8 guys as a base are there every single thing for the senior men's team. And so that chemistry element matters. And of course, like age comes into play. And like I watch Bahamas. Oh, there's my AC in my hotel. So if it sounds like I'm on a plane, that's why. I watch Bahamas in the qualifying play Argentina, and like half the Argentina team's been the same since like the 2008 Olympics. Like they have 40-year-olds on the team, for Pete's sake. So that chemistry element is certainly a thing. Hey guys, quick little break here as we can talk about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and plenty more. Whether you are into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. Plus, eBay has their guaranteed fit. And with that, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time. You're going to get your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, with all the parts you need at prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Let's talk about Haliburton for a little bit before we get into some team storylines. Second youngest guy on the team, Anthony Edwards, of course, takes that. Anthony Edwards is going to have a shot at a lot of Olympic games, I think, in his career. Haliburton's second youngest guy on the team, but only 24. Maybe the best passer on the team, right? If the exhibition with Canada is any indication, he's certainly up there. He finished that game with 6 assists, which led the team. And the second he can find some space, he just dumps it to the right guy or dumps it to the right post player. It's interesting that I think of him as the best passer, because that game uniquely only had 10 guys available for USA. Durant was hurt, and that was the day after Kawhi had to drop out for Derek White. So Haliburton was in the rotation. I'll be curious with White back and Durant playing what it looks like. But if he's going to if they're going to start Steph and Drew, which I think they should, given how well those two guys played, if they're going to start both of those guys, it seems like I was curious if there would be a role for Haliburton, or if it'd be like LeBron and Steph starting 5 guards and then Drew running the bench. But I think if this is going to be the rotation, he's going to play. And I think his passing is going to be the standout thing. Steve Kerr talked about loving that last year with him and Austin Reeves. And I think that's going to be what gets him on the floor and makes him a part of this rotation in these games.
Yeah, and the reason Haliburton is on the team is because of his passing. We have enough point scorers. The U.S. will always have point scorers. The U.S. will always have shot creators. So what you want off the bench is someone who can move people around in that half-court style of play that FIBA is more prone to. There's not a lot of transition. Obviously, post players can stay in the paint longer, things like that. So that's the reason Haliburton is coming off the bench, is that passing ability. Haliburton also had 4 steals against Canada. Yeah. I believe that was a team high in that game. So if he can keep the steal rate up against other teams that have, NBA players, and he can show he has the defensive ability at point guard, I think he should stay in the rotation.
We talked to him they had a Team USA media call with Steve Kerr and him a couple weeks ago, and he mentioned joking with Grant Hill that he's going to be the Jason Kidd of this team. And for those of you unfamiliar with that history, Jason Kidd famously would not shoot with Team USA. He'd go insane stretches of 0 field goal attempt games because he was just setting up other more effective scorers. Haliburton took 4 shots in 20 minutes. He was only one of 4 players, who played 20 minutes, and he was still last of the rotation players in shot attempts in that game. And he made that dunk at the end and the breakout in transition. But I think you'll see kind of a lot of those kind of stat lines from him, like 1 for 2 with 4 assists, for example, because his bench group has Anthony Edwards and his bench group has Jason Tatum and Anthony Davis. He's like, yeah, I don't need to be the guy shooting these shots. And that's like an important role to have, right, on these teams. They set it up differently last year with the World Cup team, where Brunson was the starting point guard and he was more like score, get your shot, creator type. And then Haliburton with the second group was more pass heavy. And they ended up blending that more as the tournament went on because they needed that role. And it's different with the talent on this year's team. But I think that's an important spot to have on like you said, a squad of a lot of guys who can create their own shots and are good scorers, is just like a natural setup man. And if there's going to be lots of stops because they have such good post defense, transition, he can whip it ahead to the right guy and make it happen. So I don't necessarily consider FIBA like fast paced games like the Pacers play. I don't know if Haliburton's hit aheads are going to be like the thing of the tournament, but they'll have more of those opportunities than their teams as a result of him.
Yeah, and it's all what you said. He loves to pass. He said it before, and he loves to play with Ant-Man, and he loves to set up Anthony Edwards every single time. I mean, you see Anthony Edwards, he took 10 shots. And he's going to play with Tyrese because Tyrese will be able to find him in transition, or as much transition as FIBA can get.
What do you think of the way that this team was built, this United States team was built? Because they always, the way they work through it's always so fascinating to me, where they try to have this cohesive unit. And clearly they viewed Kawhi as like a wing guard type when they went and got Derek White, right? It's like the roles matter as they pick guys out. But it's still interesting. I want to talk about like the old versus new later in terms of the storylines of this squad. But the way this team was built, I think, was really interesting in that they have a few guys, Haliburton being one of them, ironically, that I would consider offensive types. But to me, it looks like a lot of the positions, they focused on two-way players, right, who are really good on both ends and can be defensive types as well. And you have so much more lineup versatility when you can play that way, right? Drew Holiday, of course, Bam, who's been around for several Olympics. Both of those guys have been around for several Olympics. Embiid, Anthony Davis, right? Like they really went at leaning in on those guys. I think Derek White really stamped that with his inclusion at the end. What do you think of the way this team was built and constructed?
I really like the way that USA Basketball approached picking this team. Of course, you're going to have Instagram commenters say, why isn't this person on the team over this person? It is balanced. And I look at the roster and I think it is one of the most balanced rosters in terms of, shooters, defenders, rebound first, pass first, things like that. And they really, really put a lot of effort into making sure when they play these international teams that have chemistry, we can rely on defense. If the team's passing really well, we can rely on shot creation if something's not falling, or if, a team is set in a zone really well. So I think it's one of the more balanced rosters that USA Basketball has put forth in the Olympics. We're not going to rely on LeBron and KD to do all the scoring. We're going to have essentially Pacers style basketball where maybe somebody gets 20 points, maybe somebody gets 18 points, things like that. And you do have 8 fewer minutes in FIBA. I believe they do 40 minutes. Yep. So you're going to have people around the, 15 to 18 point, margin. And I don't think on this roster, you're going to see anybody explode for 20 points, just because you're going to work on chemistry. And that's always the biggest thing with Team USA. You have all these stars who are starters on their own team, and you're going to, at the highest professional level, and then you're going to ask, Anthony Edwards to sit on the bench. And luckily they picked the right people who said, okay, I want to win a gold medal with this team, so I will sit on the bench.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I think if they have one guy who's going to have a game where he scores 25 or 30, it's Ant.
He will probably do it off the bench.
Yes, I agree. I actually think the starting 5 they had against Canada is going to be what they roll with for maybe the whole tournament, right? Like once when I guessed the starting 5, I got it a little wrong. And Devin Booker was not a guy I thought would start. I thought it might be Tatum instead, but and Tatum came in late, so maybe they do change that later at some point. But I thought that group worked pretty well. Their start was really gross, but once they clicked it in gear, they were really clicking. And Giroux just makes that whole group really work. Like they have good two-way play. The ball was popping and moving. So I think that group will probably remain the starting five. And if it does, especially with Booker in there, that definitely means Haliburton's going to be a very frequent sub because they'll have so many backcourt guys opening the game. And him with Ant was really great. Like obviously their pairing, I think, is a long-term play by USA as well. But I think Haliburton and Giroux are going to be a duo to watch throughout this tournament just because they make so much sense together. It's like this backcourt that one guy can really defend and one guy can set everything up, and they both can pass it pretty well. Like we just saw Giroux be awesome in the finals for the Celtics. And it doesn't matter who the other three guys are around them, especially given how good everybody is on Team USA. They're just going to work really well together. So I like the rotation they had, but obviously the other thing that would shake things up is Kevin Durant returning. He might end up being the fifth starter.
That's, again, one of the luxuries Team USA have. If Kevin Durant's hurt, I would throw in somebody else. It's LeBron again for an extra 5 minutes. I mean, you're going to have players all around, and I think what you said is going to be correct. They may stick with this this starting five, other than maybe Booker for Tatum. I mean, the team's going to give LeBron his shine. They're going to try to give KD some extra shine because in reality, who knows, if they want to do it again in 2028 in LA and become, 5-6-time Olympians, things like that. If they want to tie Rudy Fernandez, but, or they take the Diana Taurasi route, but, the starting five will probably be pretty much the same, other than maybe Booker and Tatum, I'd say.
One more break here, guys, so we could talk about FanDuel. It's the summer. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. That's why Summer League fills such a great gap in my basketball mind. But as the playoffs are over in the NBA and the NHL, we get fewer games, fewer sports. The sports aren't sportsing like many want them to. Thankfully, FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever you want. All you got to do, open the app, dream up bets anytime that you're in the mood to do so. And this summer, to make it even more sportsy, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus every single day. That's right. There's something out there for everybody every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer with daily boosts and daily bonuses. That's on FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So you just kind of hit on something I want to talk about too with this team that I think is so fascinating. And that's they have guys like that, LeBron, KD, who are in the Mount Rushmore of Team USA basketball. At least in my lifetime, they're on it. The full length of Team USA, maybe not because of how good some of the 90s and 80s teams were, but my lifetime team is probably Bron, Melo, KD, and Kobe. And we're kind of at the end of that era of and again, a lot of older people listening are probably laughing at me for making that the crew, but in my lifetime, it's those guys. And so this is like LeBron will be 43, right? At the LA Olympics. Like, I'm not going to rule it out because he's a cyborg, but like, I doubt it, right? KD will be 39, yeah. Maybe LeBron's 39 right now. So maybe, and he still doesn't show any signs of slowing down, but if those two guys are out, and who knows what, Steph probably won't do another one. Maybe he could in 4 years. I have no idea what he's going to look like. What's Anthony Davis going to look like in 4 years? But Anthony Davis was on the last Olympic team too. This is Steph's first one. I kind of view this Olympics, and like they have some bridging players. Drew was on the last Olympic team. Booker was on the last Olympic team. Tatum was too. But I kind of view this Olympics as like the bridge from the old guard to the new guard of an era of Team USA, where it's like the last year you'll see a lot of the mainstays of my lifetime doing it, and kind of the rush in of this new era, which is pretty cool that Haliburton gets to be a part of that. But I'm curious what you think of that. And again, I'm not going to rule out any of these guys playing because they're so good because they're playing this well at this age. But it looks like it's trending that way. And I think it'll be a really fun Olympics as a result to see kind of how they ride off into the sunset with some of those guys.
Yeah, and I think tying it back to another point, I think that's why USA Basketball balanced this roster so much with multiple of each type of player. Is you're going to have your last hurrahs for your shot creators, and then Curry, it's his first Olympics. So I see Curry trying again in LA just to get a 2-time Olympian thing under his belt. But it is, and you talk about LeBron being, going to be 43 by LA. That's 43 plus, 82 times 4 if they don't make the playoffs. NBA games. Yeah. So the USA plays a lot of basketball, so you're going to want to rotate in these younger guys. And yeah, it's really cool that the Pacers in Indiana and how big basketball is in Indiana can see Haliburton represent all things Indiana on this international global stage that only appears once every 4 years. And they do have the rotations in and out. For instance, like I watched, they didn't even send a Team USA basketball they didn't even send a 5-on-5 team to the Pan American Games in October because they were playing the World Cup. So they'll rotate in and out. I mean, AD's back after forgetting his jersey in 2012. So, it'll be interesting who wants to stay and who's going to really try and who is like, that was fun. I got a gold medal. Let's play 4 more years in the NBA and see how I feel, because they rotate in and out through these smaller they're still big international tournaments, but in the NBA's eye, they're smaller. Like USA basketball is a privilege rather than.
The other reason I'll never rule it out is it's in LA, right? Like, it's not like they have to fly around and go around the globe. It's like, oh no, the games are in some of your cases like right there down the street. So that could end. It certainly entice some guys to stick around for another one, but I still think this will be probably a transitional period. And I think they kind of know that, right? Haliburton's been asked about that, and LeBron was his favorite player growing up, right? And I think that opportunity of like, man, this could be my only chance to do the Olympics with him. That's not like he was going to say no, obviously, but is super cool and something he'll be kind of starstruck about the entire time that he's out there. Ant's 22, which is crazy. I'd imagine he'll be on, like, people who were born in pick your year 2004 onward, probably. Like, Ant will be there, Mount Rushmore Team USA guy, most likely, in the way Carmelo Anthony is for like you and me and people our age, because he had way more success with USA in the NBA. Not that he wasn't an amazing NBA player. So I think that's going to be fun. And I think it'll be fun to see how many times Haliburton can be a part of that. He talked to the Olympic digital site last year about wanting to do like 3 Olympics if you can, and I think everybody would if they could, right? But I think that's a pretty fascinating goal and a good start. And so I think it's cool that they have that young old guard kind of line. Last thing I want to talk about is their group. I don't know if you can't comment on the quality of other teams in the tournament. I would say that they have the easiest group. Do you agree with that?
On paper, it is definitely the easiest group. I mean, you're going to have first-timers in South Sudan who are going to be, the team you root for just for good storylines and good heart, Jamaican bobsled team vibes. Like, you always want to turn in and watch them because it's really cool to see these smaller teams play Team USA, and it has been taped in the past and on TV in the past when USA plays these teams. They play them respectfully. It's normally a blowout, but then they all say hi to the other team. They there's pictures of like Kobe signing autographs for other international teams. So it's really a cool thing to watch. It will be probably not close. So if you want to watch the US's deep bench against South Sudan, go right ahead. But if you want to watch, South Sudan play in the Olympics for the first time in basketball, it's, fun. And then Puerto Rico is the hot team. They did upset the US 20 years ago, and they're probably watching that tape just for motivation. There's probably nothing to take from it, but they're watching that tape as motivation. But the only one that will probably put up the biggest fight will be Serbia and Jokic and the Bogdanovic and who's their point guard, Micic from the Hornets. So it's definitely the easiest path when Australia and Canada have to play, and France and Germany and the high scoring Japan will have to play each other.
Yeah, South Sudan, like you said, Bull Bull's on the team, I believe. I think he's the only NBA guy. Carlick Jones has like a little bit of NBA experience. They're a newer program in general. Luol Deng's their coach. It's pretty cool. They did pretty well at the World Cup. Like, they're the African representative for a reason, but most think of them as the worst team in this tournament. We'll see. And then Puerto Rico, like you said, is red hot. Jose Alvarado. That was a sick moment, seeing him and his kids celebrate them beating Lithuania to qualify was awesome. But like, Group A is insane. like Group A has 4 teams that I think could, like, in theory, win if things go well for them. It's Australia, Greece, Canada, and Spain. And then Group B has 3 really solid teams in France, Germany, and Brazil. And Japan's pretty good. They hosted last year, and they earned the qualification spot again. So the fact that USA's group doesn't have as many of those like star level NBA players besides Jokic in their group is certainly fascinating. And I can't wait for this stuff. For those who don't know, it's 12 teams that make it. If this is your first time really diving into the Olympics, because Haliburton's in it. 12 teams are in the group play, and 8 go to the qual stage or the knockout stage from that. So in most groups, 3 teams will get out, and in one group, 2 teams will. It's based off of if you're a top 2 team in your group, you're just through, and then point differential for the ranking of all the third teams. So it actually matters, like, if there's a game where USA is dominating, that they continue to do so. I mean, very unlikely that their point differential is the reason they get through to the top 8, but it does actually matter to do that until the quarterfinals actually start. So that is why the quality of groups really matter. It's going to be a shame that someone in Group A has to go out before the bracket even starts.
Yeah, it's I wish it was obviously it's random draw. I mean, there's like the
FIFA
World Cup on a smaller
like pods into the draw though, right? Yeah.
There's at the end of the day it is kind of luck of the draw. It's kind of not. FIBA is very, and if you want to dive into any Olympic sport, it's the qualification process and selection process are wild, and they vary by every sport and every governing body. But yeah, it'll be fun to watch a lot of players on a lot of teams. Like you said, South Sudan, they have I think his name is Joe Gabriel, who plays for Monmouth. So if you're a Division I basketball fan, tune into a Monmouth game. A lot of South Sudanese players play in Australia, which is not the worst, basketball leagues ever. So they do have some professional experience, and it's one of those chemistry teams. All of them play, most of them play in Australia. And like you said, Group A is going to be really fun to watch. You have, Australia with Patty Mills, Joe Ingles, Dellavedova, Dante Exum. And then you have Canada, who, fun fact, Canada is I believe the first non-US team to have 10 NBA players.
Wow. They have 11, right?
Yeah, I think it's 10 plus, but to have at least 10 should have been the fact.
That's crazy.
But Canada's going, if they get out of Group A, if you watch the FIFA World Cup, that would be what the so-called Group of Death. If they get out of Group A, there's no reason they can contend in the knockout stages for a medal, for a podium spot. And obviously, if you want to tune into the next great star of the NBA, France has Wemby. So you're gonna have wild finishes. You're gonna have close games. I think France and Germany will play each other very close. If you want to watch a different teams in a different group. Japan is going to be fun because their games are probably going to be most like, 2010's Big 12 football or NBA games. Japan does not have a notoriously strong defense, and they have a notoriously strong offense. So if you want to watch a Pacers-like team, their games in 40 minutes may end 90-82. They shoot a lot. They're probably one of the faster teams too. And, like I said at the beginning, they have Tominaga. So if you want to watch a potential new Pacer next year, tune into a Japan game. They'll be fun. And Rui.
For reference, I think Australia is pretty strong, and they have 8 NBA players. Like, Canada is really good in this tournament. And I miss some South Sudan. JT Thor is also in the NBA, and Thon McCoy used to be. So, it's a good tournament, right? This is, again, that was my lead for a reason. This is the best the Olympic tournament, has ever been. And that's going to be super fun. I think games outside of the U.S.'s group are going to actually be really awesome to watch. I had a ton of fun watching the World Cup last year. I can't wait. And you know who else can't wait? Brendan Rourke, who is going to be all over it for the Team USA digital team. Thank you for the time. Brendan, where can people find
you.
you and what you're doing with the Olympics coming in 12 days, I believe, right? When this comes out, it'll be 10 days.
Yeah. The opening ceremonies start July 26th. Remember the time difference. I believe if you're on the East Coast, Paris is about 6-7 hours. I think it's 6 hours ahead. So if you want to catch some early round games, you may have to wake up at 6 a.m., be like a Premier League soccer fan during the Premier League season. But yeah, during the Olympics, I will be actually working from home on the back end of TeamUSA.com. You may not see a lot of articles with my name, but any photo galleries that pop up, any little quick slideshow carousels on TeamUSA.com, I'll try to provide the quick stats for you there. And then don't forget to tune into the Paralympic Games as well, which occur about 2.5 weeks after. Really exciting athletes there. Paralympians deserve all the respect the Olympians get, and I'm really excited that the Paralympics are going to be in France and then the United States to see what I get to see every day. Shout out a couple of para track and field athletes you can follow. Nick Mayhew, Ezra Freck is a 19-year-old. He is in Division I regular NCAA track and field. I believe he's at USC competing with all able-bodied athletes. A lot of the Paralympians compete with able-bodied athletes. Nick Mayhew, Ezra Freck, Brittany Mason, they're all fun on the track team to watch. And there's a bunch of swimmers too, a bunch of para swimmers who have all kinds of impacts on the Paralympics and things like that. So if you love Olympic sports and you want any more athletes, DM me on Twitter at B_Rourke Sports. If you don't know how to score in judo, let me know as well. I know the very basics. I know a little about a lot, though. I can give you some athletes to watch if you're interested in a different sport, if you're interested in learning a new sport. Just DM me. I'm pretty friendly. So
I always have an affinity for the track and field events because if you can't tell by my incredible physique, ran in high school. So I love seeing those times that I could never have sniffed in a million years. I'm like, wait, that's an 800 time? That's not an 800 time. I love those events.
Yeah,
Brandon, again, will be.
They're ridiculous when you get to watch.
It's insane. It's unbelievable. It's like that's the wrong event for that time. Can't wait for the Olympics. It's gonna be super fun to watch. Haliburton. We'll have more stuff talking about him as the games actually happen. I believe between us talking and me posting this, they have a friendly in Abu Dhabi. So that will be another factor in this. If he gets hurt, this might never see the light of day. So hopefully that does not happen. Thank you all for tuning in today. Back tomorrow talking more Summer League. Till then, everybody, have a wonderful day.